Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm liking your thing, man. I'm liking your falsetto.
I'm being more jazzy.
You
know what I mean?
Too jazzy?
It's never too jazzy
No,
as far
there's
as
no
I'm concerned.
Not on Crossing Swords.
And to be honest with you, that's sort of your mantra. Like, you've never been afraid to jazz it up sartorially.
I mean, I would say all areas of my life I've been willing to push the
from
boat
cowboy boots, which I still think is proper rogue.
Why is that rogue though? What's wrong with cowboy boots?
Next time Joe's on, we should have asked Jo.
Should I wear them?
Yeah, you should actually, and then see what she thinks.
She'll love them.
But Jo will listen to this, so we'll be able to get the answer before the next pod. Jo is a man wearing cowboy boots that isn't from somewhere like Texas or that sort of place in America. Is that okay? Or gay? Obviously, a gay man could do it.
Well, why can a gay man pull it off, but I can't pull it off?
Like, a gay man just naturally can be more.
You think the Riz is stronger from a gay? They get more leeway.
Absolutely, they do.
It's like the way I naturally slipped in a little youth word there.
What, Riz?
Riz.
I sort of know what it means. Does it mean you're like fly?
I don't know. I hope I used it correctly.
And anybody went for like the oldest word for like cool.
Super fly. But yeah, what's wrong? Like, why can a gay man pull off cowboy boots, but I can't pull off cowboy boots?
It's obvious though, because like as I said, gay men can get away.
It's not obvious. What, they look better when you're sucking dick, or what's this? You know,
they might do. I've never had a man suck me off, so
that's because you keep insisting that I'm not allowed to wear them in the bedroom.
Yeah,
I just think you're being really harsh on the cowboy. I've always thought you guys are harsh on the cowboy boots.
Yeah, like I could see you wearing sequins. Do you know what I mean?
I'd wear sequins.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
might have actually.
Do you know what? If I went on like Strictly, I'd probably get one of those
every week. You'd
button
like
down to the navel.
Be the deepest V possible.
Oh, unbelievably like, deep.
You're seeing pubic hair. I love the idea of that, by the way. Just you, like almost like reverse mankini, like just with a big arrow pointing down to the crotch.
I'll shave. Just keep that bit.
Is it on ITV?
Strong.
Just like
BBC Strictly.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fair. Which one's on ITV? Is it the
ice one?
That's the one. Yeah, you can tell I don't watch that sort of stuff.
See, I wouldn't go like down to the navel on that because that's too cold.
Yeah.
My nipples would be just.
Yeah. Speaking of nipples.
Excellent segue, my man.
Is Holly Willoughby still doing those sort of shows? Like
I don't know.
Walking around.
I don't know what she's doing.
Because I feel like she sort of skated through the Philip Schofield minefield.
I don't know how she meant to be. I don't know how she was meant to get caught up in that. But
well, come on, mate. We know how close they were.
Or like she was like pushing the dude's head.
She knew.
She may well have.
It was an open secret.
But back to the point, okay? Because it's not just nipples? The cowboy boots. I've worn some. I'm not a big hat person, but I've worn some hats in my time.
Yeah, you don't wear many hats. Is there a particular reason? Is that because they look too big on your head?
I've got a little head.
Yeah.
Most hats
I have
fit.
the reverse problem. My head's too big. Apparently, I've got like a size 20 head. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. Nothing to me.
But when I got a straw hat in Brighton, the guy was like, "You're size 20 for future reference," and I was like, "Cool."
Yeah, cool, because that'll come up a lot. Yeah. I mean, thanks, but
like, I normally can't wear hats.
The Bono shirt.
Yeah.
I have a particular affinity with that shirt.
But to be honest, I think it was more
the fact I paired it with white shorts and white trainers. It was all white.
And the way it was basically completely unbuttoned most of the time.
I might as well have stood up from a stool, grabbed the air and sung some kind of like Westlife ballad.
Or like forced us to have your music on our phones.
Or asked you to join a cult.
Yeah. Or like, I don't know, talk about killing African children every time you clap your hands.
It was bold look. But my point is, I'm not afraid to push the boundaries.
I can imagine you in the middle of a concert being so self-indulgent to be like, yeah, I can do this right now, and make like some big point rather than just playing the hits.
But just getting it completely arse about face and thinking that I have to kill a child. Come off royal blood. It's such a shame because I like royal blood, and it was like, oh, do you know what?
Since I've heard a few of their songs, and I've been like, it's a real shame. They're actually quite good.
Yeah. I really like them. And then when you realise there's only two of them and the sound they get out of it.
I don't understand how they manage that.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that whole,
wankers.
We're royal blood and this is rock music or whatever they said.
Yeah, they're just wankers.
Not a strong moment for them.
Look, could have just been a bad day. Do you know what I mean?
But you're right. You know what? If either one of us was going to make one of those moments,
it would be you.
It would be me.
Yeah.
I accept that. I can see that.
Yeah. But I think like I'd be nice enough that people would forgive us as a collective.
So your good grace is carrying my fuck up.
Or at the very least I can carry the core of the support so that I can go solo.
Yeah, you're gonna Hollow Willoughby this shit. You're gonna sneak out the back door and then come back a year later.
Robbie Williams it, do you know what I mean? I just want to entertain the people.
Oh great, so I'm Gary Barlow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You look like Gary Barlow.
Wow.
I've never said anything more offensive to you.
No.
You've got a similar hairstyle.
It looks like I've got a fat face. Oh, right, okay.
Look, there's some positives. You've got money. You have own vineyards.
Yeah, money, and I owe the government.
Yeah. Does he? Has he got a tax bill?
Didn't all of take that getting like a massive tax thing about 10 years ago or so?
I don't pay attention to people's taxes unless they're conservative.
It was pretty big by all accounts.
Or Angela Rayner.
Yeah, well, Angela Rayner, sure.
Yeah. But we can get onto that in a bit.
Sure, for now we're just going to carry on insulting me.
Look, there could be worse things. Gary.
Yeah, you're one of the other ones. You're not even Robbie or Gary.
Like, to be fair, I don't like any Take That songs that I can really think of from like Robbie Williams times. My favourite songs are like when they made their comeback without him. Like
Patience,
Ride on a Star. Those two in particular are absolute rammers. And like Barlow's front and centre, so...
I don't like the way you're trying to bar me up and win me back round.
While I'm just getting wanked off in castles by random women called Maureen.
Yeah, talking about aliens and stuff.
Yeah. Well, look, we all know I like a conspiracy. I like talking about the mad shit.
I do feel like it's a shame that those shows have gone to an end, though, because I do feel like I'd be a good X Factor judge.
Yeah.
100%.
Has that gone now?
Hundo. That's been gone a few years, I think.
Has it?
Yeah, I think so.
Like I said, it shows how much I watch those shows.
I didn't watch it. I watched it up to a point.
I liked it when I was younger.
Yeah, when I was younger.
But I remember it getting to like, and I like Ryland and I defended him last week, but when it got to like the Jedward Ryland period, I was like, this isn't...
Do you know what, when it got to for me was like, okay, we all enjoy, I think, it is a bit Victorian freak show, but we all kind of enjoy the early rounds, right? The shit ones.
Oh, yeah, like the classic viral moments. And I actually think, to be honest with you, it wasn't a healthy thing to do to a lot of these people.
No, it's Victorian freak show.
Yeah.
It is. It's just 21st century version. Yeah. 20th century version.
And occasionally you get a Susan Boyle rock up. I know that was probably
Britain's Got Talent.
But you get my drift. You get a Will Young. Do you know what I mean?
That pop idol. But actually, you do get the bit.
I'm going to say, I think Will Young's overrated. He's got a few good songs, but I actually don't think he's that good. I'm not even a fan of Gareth Gates. He can do one. But I did like his version of Spirit in the Sky.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, that's all I have, mate.
I just think I'd be a good X Factor judge, that's all I'm saying.
I think I'd be a sort of... Yeah, I think I'd be all right. I think I'd be really positive and like I'd want to like, even if someone was shit, I'd be like...
Oh, well, I'd be antagonistic. I'd be like, I would be the one putting through Jedward and Ryland.
Yeah, and I'd be doing everything possible to piss off Simon Cowell.
Yeah.
Because obviously he'd be there. Yeah. He's not going to...
Because if his face isn't going to move, I'm going to make it move. I'm going to see how much movement I can get out of his face.
I know inside he's crying.
And that's enough for me.
Who do you think's better? Like, I've personally, right, I love Sharon Osbourne. I've always had a crush on her. I still think she's amazing. I think she's an absolute gangster. And she was one of my like young age crushes because she was on that from like early doors. And that was one of the reasons I enjoyed watching X Factor was for Sharon Osbourne.
Cool.
I actually think I prefer her even. I think I'm more attracted to her than Cheryl Cole.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was it just the fact that she's like...
I think
takes no prisoners.
I think it's her overall personality.
Yeah, no holes barred.
She says what she means what she says. Do you know what I mean?
If she fucks up, she just bulldozes through.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I love, like, there were so many moments where she would like crack up laughing and just absolutely lose it, and Simon would be getting angry at her, and she just wouldn't be able to control herself. And then even when she went into Big Brother recently, she like had her own bedroom. That was all part of the contract. She was only in there for a few days.
Oh yeah, she didn't want to be away, did she? Yeah.
And I was thinking, that's baller. Like,
yeah. I don't know if it's enough to make me like fancy someone, but
no. But like, you telling me you've never met someone, right? That just the personality is just out of this world, and like it doesn't matter what they look like. You're just attracted to them as a person.
I probably have. The View? Or Sharon Osbourne? No, hang on. Are you saying you're not physically attracted to Sharon Osbourne then?
Not now.
You don't think she's pulling off the older lady look?
I think she looks all right for her age, but she's had a lot of work done, hasn't she?
Putting you off.
But I think when she was younger and I was younger, yeah.
Fine.
I didn't expect to talk about Sharon Osbourne for this long, or at all.
15-year-old you wanking over
I was probably
Ozzy Osbourne's wife.
Well, look, if it's good for Ozzy, it's good for me.
It's a statement we could all live by.
That's the way to live our lives. Just coked up to our eyeballs.
And all other things.
I've watched a little bit of their podcast as well. It's not for me, but it's quite funny just seeing them all together shooting the shit.
It's a bit less like the Osbournes, wasn't it?
I did like that when I was younger.
See, again, it, like you've just said, it wasn't for me. But I enjoyed parts of it, and I can see the appeal.
Yeah, I mean that was probably the first keeping up with the Kardashians sort of thing, wasn't it? I don't really remember any others before that.
No, I can't remember any before that. Doesn't mean there weren't any, but I can't remember any before that. Yeah.
No.
Just let's put some cameras on a family for a little while.
Yeah, and see what happens.
Yeah, they don't do anything, but they're celebrity people, so they do celebrity things.
But also Ozzy Osbourne, is Ozzy Osbourne. He's dithering about.
That's the thing.
Borderline high on drugs, just doing mad shit.
That's what the Kardashians don't have.
They don't have the coked up family member.
When the phone rings, they don't have someone wandering around in a Brummie accent going, "What the fuck is that? Can anyone else hear that?"
They had a coked up, borderline geriatric at a younger age.
Because of all
the
acid and mushrooms and stuff that he'd taken.
Absolutely decimated.
They turned him into, he had dementia brain.
Yeah.
From
it's there's a disease where you sound drunk.
Yeah.
So it's like that, isn't it? He sounds like he's off his tits all the time. He could be 20 years sober. But
and he smoked a lot of weed during that show as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, it would you'd have him dithering about trying to put the bins in the swimming pool or something like that. And trying to be Ozzy, what the fuck are you doing? It was just comedy gold.
Yeah, you don't have that in the Kardashians.
They're
too focused on the drama rather than the comedy.
Yeah, Kim needs to be, I don't know, doing weird shit.
Well, she married Kanye, which is pretty out there. His commitment to the peace.
I think she caused it all.
His commitment to the peace.
I think he was genuinely in love with her. And I think that going tits up, he just lost it.
Luckily, there were no signs of him being mental beforehand, so...
I mean, I'm not saying the guy was stable, but I don't think he was in a stable environment.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, his madness or her cruel environment?
The madness was always in there. But we know with genius comes a bit of madness. The guy is...
Yeah, I mean a bit, Jesus.
He's a musical genius. Said some very bad stuff. I don't condone any of that, by the way. But his music, sick.
He's talented. He's musically talented.
He's very good,
and I wouldn't deny that.
But we know with a bit of genius comes, sometimes the darkness.
Are you trying to defend your own behaviour?
My own behaviour. Well, I haven't done anything to be worried about. First off, just like to say that for the record. But if I ever did, I'd like.
You just want it out there, just to people to remember. With the genius.
With great power comes great responsibility.
With great genius comes a little bit of madness.
Yeah. You suffer.
I suffer. I'm with you way too often.
Yeah.
I suffer a lot.
And then you go home.
And I take it out on the staff.
I wanted to do a shout out for someone, if you don't mind me changing the subject for a moment.
Sure.
And there's also a subject to discuss within it as well. But have you followed at all the world's hardest geezer?
Russ Cook, whatever his name is. I followed him up to a point. I was really onto it, but there were two things that turned me off it, and I'll say them now in reverse order. One, it was it goes on a bit, and which I appreciate. Which I appreciate. He's ran the entire length of Africa, ran it, not driven it or cycled it, ran it. I get that. It's a big continent. But the other one was, he slagged off Palace fans, and for me...
Oh, did he?
He was like, fuck Palace, or something like that in a tweet, responding to someone. Support? I don't know, but all I knew was at that point, I was like, fuck you, Russ Cook.
Oh, I didn't know
Fuck you, hardest geezer. And unless he wants to come on the pod, and then I'll take it all back. But otherwise...
Should we reach out to him?
Yeah, see if he wants to...
Celebrate his success.
If he wants to explain his decisions, his comments.
I'll buy him a McDonald's. He looks like he hasn't eaten properly for a while.
But please.
But yeah, obviously he's run the length of Africa. It's already under dispute, by the way, like whether he's the first person to do it or not.
He's the first one to run tip to tip.
Yeah.
The Danish, was it Danish? I think he was Danish, the other fella. He ran from Egypt to South Africa, but he didn't go like coast to coast. And
I think there's a difference of like 2,000 miles as well. But the guy's come out and been like, it doesn't fucking matter, I did it first.
Yeah.
Like, because they're counting it as like how the crow flies, isn't it?
But yeah, it's
But no, I remember like a
under
while
dispute.
ago being like, how is this still going? Has he not? How is Africa that big? Do you know what I mean? But like, even when it was going on, there was people criticising that he was getting help from MPs to get temporary visas to run.
But he
through
had to. I mean, some of these places they're not too friendly to stuff like this.
Yeah. But what I also find interesting is how much money he's raised. Now, I don't want to sound demeaning in any way, but he raised, I think, just under about 800,000 in total. It might have gone
about
up since
$750,000 there or thereabouts.
Captain Tom raised like 33 million or something ridiculous.
And all he did was walk around his garden.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does that say?
I did see someone.
Is it because he was in Africa and we're like out of sight?
I think it might have been. I know I've shouted him out a few times on here. I think it might have been Toby Tarrant tweeted to say that he's just heard that Russ Cook's family's just put in planning permission for a spa, which did make me chuckle.
And look, if he mysteriously dies, I will absolutely defend his family to the
Captain
hilt. It's what he wanted.
All you had to do with Captain Tom was like sort of, boo, one of them at the right angle, get him to the top of the stairs, and oh, you're right there, Dad.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I feel like the hardest geezer is a bit harder to kill.
Yeah.
Also, where do you fall on, like, okay, it's a really impressive feat, but where do you fall on the nickname?
What, the world's hardest geezer?
Hardest geezer, yeah.
Well, it depends. Did he give it to himself?
Don't know.
If he
but
did,
he's certainly using
wanky.
it as a moniker.
Yeah, but like, he's not the world's hardest geezer, obviously.
Who is?
Probably someone like, there's some UFC fighters that all come out of, I can never remember what the name of the place is called, but it's like in one of the stands.
It's probably, yeah, okay.
And
the
lads that come out of there and into the UFC are like borderline animals, and like they are pretty tough. So
that's how we're defining tough, hardest, by being fighter.
Yeah. How would you?
I just think, would you not give?
Are you going to name like that fucker in the Iron Lung that just passed away?
No.
I always thought that was a fake story, by the way, until he died.
Oh, the dude that lived in an iron lung.
I thought it was just clickbait.
I'd have asked him to turn it off. I mean, in all seriousness, that is no quality of life, is it?
No, it's not.
Just drawing things with your tongue.
Is that what he was up to?
He's like writing messages with his tongue. He got really good at it.
Yeah.
But fuck me.
And wasn't he in it for like 70 years?
He was in it from like when he was a kid.
Yeah. What was the point?
I'd have. I know that, like, I'm not trying to.
And that's like, look, obviously he made the choice to live.
He's done
and
really.
That's completely his.
He's shown a lot of mental strength to
be able to do that.
To live as long as he did in those.
Yeah.
But I'm not having that.
No, there's certain like red lines, aren't there? Where you're just like, no, it's not worth it for me personally, and I don't judge anyone else for their decisions. But even things like dementia and things like that, I thought about. There's a certain place I'd let myself get to, and then I'd be
once you didn't recognise your own family and friends, kind of thing.
Yeah, if I was still compos mentis enough, I think I'd have to. Just it doesn't like. You see how much pain stuff like that can cause. Do you know what I mean? And I don't personally myself. I'd never want to be the cause of that.
But just I think there's like kids who are battling through cancers.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're pretty hard. They're pretty tough.
Yeah, that's another form of toughness.
Because they don't even have the life experience as a child to know.
One of these lads from the stands would absolutely choke the little fuckers out. The fight would last a second.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the kid's been weakened on chemo or anything.
Making it even easier. Yeah.
But what do you make of him running the length of Africa?
I think it's amazing.
Other than impressive, it's impressive.
Like, I'm a little bit disappointed for him that it hasn't raised more money, considering amounts that have been raised. But I doubt he's going to feel disappointed.
If you had to sail, I'm not counting driving or being a passenger or whatever, but if you had to sail or cycle or run or even walk a distance to try and raise money for charity or whatever, what do you think would be?
I think I'd sail.
How far would you go?
How far?
How far do you think you could go? You know, he set out.
I mean, if I'm walking, I could walk the length of Africa.
I mean, how long would that take? It took him a year.
Well, obviously,
and he was
take
running.
me a couple of years then, mate, isn't it? I'm going to have to clear out my calendar for a bit, but you're asking me, though, what do I think I could do? I think I could walk the length of Africa.
It's the same as when you said you'd fight a kangaroo. The confidence which you just say
The only issue with the walking part is time. That is the only issue.
It's a long way to walk.
That's not the point.
How far would you be aiming to walk every day? Bear in mind, some of these places, once you get into that sub-Saharan Africa, temperature in the middle of the day could be 50 degrees, 40 degrees. I do at least
16,000 steps at work every day. So
it's about 5-6 miles.
Maybe I could get it up to 10 a day if I push myself.
And shall I Google how long it is?
Yeah.
To see how long it would take you? Because you wouldn't be able to have a day off either.
No, I'd be going non-stop. I just listen to a lot of podcasts. You know, I'd listen to Jake's favourite, Joe Rogan. I'd listen to... What other podcast do I listen to? I listen to Jack Mate's Happy Hour now and again. Ben Foster's podcast now and again. And I'm just listening things for the listeners because Jake's taken ages to find out how long Africa...
No, I'm now trying to work out how many days it would take you. It would take you... just shy of 3 years, because it's 9,940 miles that he has run.
That's me not pushing myself. That's me just walking as much as I do every day. I reckon.
But you're talking average as well, because some days you might do less.
Yeah, probably. I do.
You might be ill. You might be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I reckon if I push myself, I could do 20k a day easy.
Okay.
So we're shaving off some months just doing that, and then we're counting out the fact that as I go on, I'm going to get fitter because I'm just exercising every day, all day. So that speed's going to increase. I reckon I get it down to 2 years easy. Easy. I reckon I can do it under 2.
I would love you to be able to put this. I would love to be able to put this to the test.
Look, if you want to give up your life and plan me walking the length of Africa,
we could get one of those little sort of portable mics.
Yeah.
And I could drive alongside you. And we could record the podcast.
You're telling me you're not even going to walk alongside me for a couple of hours?
Yeah, for parts. I never committed to walking the length of Africa.
No, but you're going to have to come with me.
Yeah. In a car.
That's fine.
Someone's got to bring the supplies and the emergency supplies in medical kits.
I'll need some sort of apparatus that's like connected to a backpack that's like a shade. Do you know what I mean?
You need shade.
Yeah, yeah.
You mean you need like a parasol?
I've got a bit of ginger in me, Jake. I crisp up like.
He's got a lot of ginger in him.
That is very true. I actually think that's part of why people don't like him.
Because he's ginger. Do people not like him?
Well, no. I mean, like people seem quite eager to like dispute him being the first person to do it. I don't really think it matters whether he's the first person to do it. It's still pretty impressive.
Mm.
He's still the second.
Do you think... No, I'm not going to say it. Okay.
No, what were you going to say?
Do you think his partner stayed loyal?
No.
Like he's been away for a year.
Yeah.
And you know
ginger.
There's no chance of him walking in and catching you.
No, you've got complete freedom. Unless she went out there with him.
She went out for the end.
He might not have had a partner. Oh, so he has got a partner.
Yeah, she went out for the end. That's why I brought it up, because I saw a picture of some woman sitting on his lap at the end, and I was like,
"You gotta be trusting."
Fair play, he's done well. And then as I read the article, it was like, oh, it's his partner's gone out to see him and stuff.
I wonder how long before he went off to do it, he told her he was going to do it. Because if it was you
packed your bags, babe.
You'd be in Africa, and she'd phone you to be like, "Babe, it's dinner time. Where are you?" But I'm probably going to be a bit late if I'm being honest.
Oh, I'm running the length of Africa. Yeah. What? Did I not tell you?
I'll be back as soon
I
as
thought
possible.
I told you. Well, yeah, anyway. See you in a year.
Yeah, you can come out and meet me every now and again.
And also to this, I wouldn't be able to do it in under a year.
No, I don't.
I don't have that fitness at all.
What's your distance and how are you doing it?
I would happily walk for charity, time permitting, like you said. I would happily walk from one end of Scotland down to, I do like Land's End to John O'Groats.
Cool.
Which is got people cycle it and stuff. And then based on the success of that, I'd happily push it further and maybe go...
I think you then go from Calais down to, is it the base of Spain? Where like
Gibraltar,
where it goes to...
into Africa.
Into Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah, get to there. Yeah, I'd be up for that.
It depending on like when you went in the year, it could be quite nice, actually.
Yeah. go through some really nice countryside bits of France.
We'll do what they do in like the first Tour de France as well. We'll just stop off every few miles for a little beer and something to eat.
Yeah.
And then we'll carry on.
Yeah. Or we could do it on like little electric scooters. Just
sort of not walking anymore, though. You're sort of taking the walking out of the equation.
Imagine how much more fun it would be.
It'd be more fun.
Yeah, I'd be loving life.
That's true. What we've moved from is if we do a really labour intensive walk, will people
do you know what?
Pay for money?
Take a cut off.
And now we're saying, would you just pay for our holiday? If we went on holiday, would you pay for it and then give a little bit to charity on the side?
Oh, how much did you raise? 50 grand. How much of that went to charity? 5.
We've sort of seen the Captain Tom thing and thought, that's not a bad model, is it?
We're not going to be able to raise enough for a spa, but we can go on holiday.
That little scam his daughter had going on, that was all right.
Yeah, you just got to market it the right way.
Yeah, because then you sell books.
No, I think we're on to
something. We've got the public to pay for our holiday.
I'm on board.
I'm in for it.
What's good for Rishi Sunak's good for me. Right, so World's Hardest Geezer we've done.
Russ Cook.
I mentioned Angela Rayner earlier.
Yes.
How aware of the situation are you?
A little.
So, for anyone that's unaware, Angela Rayner has been accused of not paying her proper tax on the sale of a property she owned prior to being an MP. It was a former council home that she bought through the right to buy. She then got married, had kids. They then, I believe, separated, but like they were all living between 2 homes and sort of blended family sort of thing, raising the kids. And she eventually sold her home, and because it was listed as her primary residence and it was only a certain amount of profit, she didn't have to pay capital gains tax. And what's being alleged is she wasn't living at that residency and she should have paid capital gains tax. Do you want to know how much that amount is?
Yeah, it's about £1,500.
£1,500, yeah. At most, because I did some research on it, it could be up to £3,000 at the absolute most. And she's even come out and said, like, if anything is found untoward with it, she said, which I know it won't, because I've received legal advice that says I did everything above board. I will pay the money to the charity of the public's choice, just to shut people up. Do you want to know how this all started?
Sure.
Lord Ashcroft, who's the former vice chairman of the Conservative Party, multi-millionaire, Brexiteer.
Doesn't he have non-dom status, or didn't he have non-dom status as well? So he was avoided paying tax for...
Yeah. The ironies are...
Millions, to the tune of millions, tens of millions.
They're never lost on these Conservatives whatsoever. No. Decided to fund an unofficial autobiography of Angela Rayner for no reason whatsoever. And then, obviously, all the research then went into her paying... just looking for anything they can to smear her.
I wonder what the legal standing is if someone wrote an unofficial autobiography of your life. What kind of rights you have to block it and say...
I don't think you do. I think the only rights you would have are if any of it could be considered like liable.
But if I wrote a book about you, you know, is there no way that you could step in and say, I didn't approve that? I mean, you get unpublished.
Maybe there is.
You do get unauthorised biographies all the time.
Yeah, so that's what makes me think they don't.
No,
but I imagine they're probably just quite shit books that are almost quite like Wikipedia page-esque that just takes you from stage to stage. So it would have been like, Angela Rayner went to school here. Her parents were this. And it would
Quick
be very
side
basic.
note, if you were a celebrity, if you reached a certain level of celebrityhood, would you edit your own Wikipedia page?
If I was going to, it'd probably be to add like ridiculous stuff to it. It wouldn't be...
I'm so glad you said it, because that's exactly what I do.
It'd be like maybe like won the Croydon pie eating contest in 2001 or something like that.
Random little sentences here and there that just to throw people.
Yeah, like when Apple put in their terms and conditions that the people on the 7th floor smell of fish, and no one's going to see this because no one reads the terms and conditions, and they're not going to see this, and that was genuinely in there for a bit. It's that sort of thing.
And that's going to be your level of what you'll add.
Yeah.
Just subtle, silly stuff. No, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, back to Angela Rayner.
Why do you think they're doing it? What do you think of it? Do you think she's done something dodgy? Do you think she's deliberately not paid her tax?
I think it's all above board. I think, if anything, one could argue, I wouldn't argue, I'm just for the sake of the argument, one could argue that maybe, like you said, it wasn't really, in an everyday sense, it wasn't her primary residency. In a legal sense, it was her primary residency, but in an everyday sense, she was probably already living in this other property. Therefore, from a practical standpoint, it could be argued as being a second property, but from a legal standpoint, it's absolutely not. So I don't think she's done anything wrong. But again, that's not even finding a loophole as such. But when you consider, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to do a little bit of what ifism, but when you look at those that are in power and the loopholes that they've found, you're talking to the tunes of billions collectively. Well, not a few grand or a couple of grand.
Even if we just look at like some of the PPE shit that went down during COVID, and these people getting proper dodgy contracts.
About $4.5 billion, wasn't it? That's been proven to be
that we know of
dodgy
at the moment, basically. And other than Michelle Mone, I don't think anyone. I think she's been made the sort of sacrificial lamb because of how public.
She's not paid anything though, is she?
No, not yet. Whether she will or not,
she's out roving about.
But like, no one's faced justice. None of the people that done any of that shit. But yet, for some reason, there's going to be a police investigation into this.
It comes down to, it's like when they did the Beergate with Keir Starmer.
100%.
They've got nothing other than mudslinging, because they know full well that their policies have led the country to a decline.
Yeah.
Like when you look at, there's not an area of, and I'm just talking in the last maybe like since pre-COVID. Obviously, I know a lot of people could argue, well, COVID happened. And I would argue that the biggest impact has probably been Brexit, which was not COVID.
Well, the thing is, we started the podcast 4 years ago, and COVID hadn't happened. Had Brexit happened?
Hadn't gone through.
It had happened,
but it hadn't gone through.
So, like, things were already on the decline up to that point, and that was sort of, to a degree, why we started doing a podcast, was to discuss stuff like that.
But when I look at, like, just literally my everyday life, okay? So on the way here, I've hit way more potholes than I ever normally would.
Oh, God, yeah.
In a car that I've paid way more insurance for than I ever have before, despite the fact that I've got no claims discount, bonuses, and I've been a perfectly good
It just goes up for no reason whatsoever.
The fuel that cost me more. You've given me a drink that's undoubtedly cost more, to the point where...
Of course it has, yeah.
You know...
Those cans used to be 59p.
Like, everything. And I know inflation will always be there, and things will always go up a bit. You know, we're in a property that's probably worth 20% more than it was when we started this podcast. Maybe 15%. I'm not... I am being a bit exaggerative. I'm being a bit over the top. But everything, every single area is worse than it was, just a few years ago. So they know that they've got nothing on the policies. They're trying to, they're trying to do the Miranda thing. They're really trying to push through.
And they're not willing to offer anything either.
But Labour are almost certainly going to get in at the next election.
Yeah.
So all they've got is mudslinging.
Yeah.
And trying to dig up dirt.
And you know, it's interesting, when I was doing research into this, because I wanted us to sort of go after this and sort of dissect it a little bit, because we've spent a lot of time over the last few years dedicating time to going after Conservative politicians for some of the shit they've done. So I wanted us to at the very least, explore this and see whether we think there is anything to answer for.
Do you think there is?
No, I don't. And I think at worst, it would have been a mistake. It would have been pre-being an MP. It was before she was an MP. So I would imagine her knowledge, her experience of life in general would have been a lot less, and her connections would have been a lot less. And so making those, I didn't even know capital gains tax was a thing. I'd heard of it, but I didn't know
what it was or how it was applied.
Until I was looking into this. I still don't quite understand what it is, if I'm being honest with you, but I know it's a thing. But I don't think there's anything to answer for. What was interesting when I was doing the research was I was listening to, might have been The Rest is Politics, and they had a poll expert on, and she's quite a polarising figure, Angela Rayner. She's very Marmite. Either people love her or they hate her. I tend to. I wouldn't say I love her, but I really
favour
like
her more than
She's probably my favourite one out of the Labour bunch. She's the one that gives me some semblance of hope going forward.
She's the one that's the highest up, that seems the most in touch with everyday people and their struggles.
Well, because the thing is, she is, like, her situation is a good analogy for, like, everything that's going wrong in the country, right? Because she went from being a 15-year-old single mum dropout at school to becoming a carer, becoming a unionist in the care industry, then a senior unionist, and then a politician, and now she's going to become the Deputy Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That's a level of social mobility that a certain part of the population aren't comfortable with. They don't want working class northern women. But her rise to that position, alongside a lot of hard work, dedication, and I'm sure some luck along the way, was possible because of social economic programmes like the Sure Start
implemented by Labour.
A lot of them by Tony Blair, a man that was a war criminal but cared about people, it seems. Those programmes no longer exist, so the rug has been well and truly pulled up beneath since people like Angela Rayner, and it means that, I mean, her journey's almost an impossible one anyway. You don't hear about that happening ever.
But it doesn't strike you that it I might be wrong, but it always strikes you that that's not lost on her, that she's very grateful for that journey, and she knows she knows how she got there, and she knows that no one can make the same journey.
But I think she has to keep that, like, central to everything she is, because otherwise she'd lose sight of that easily. We know when people enter Westminster, and like, she probably has compromised a lot of her beliefs on her political journey, because I would imagine, coming from the situation she did, she was probably far more left-leaning than she perhaps is now, and has probably had to adapt to being in a very centrist Labour Party now under Keir Starmer. I mean, we know, I mean, I was slightly concerned when I heard about this that he was going to use it as a way to get rid of her, because we know he tried to demote her previously, and then she had so much support within the party that he ended up having to promote her rather than demote her.
Do you think his demotion of her, or his attempted demotion of her, is because of the polls, like you've mentioned, that said that she is polarising?
Very likely. I think also because she's left-leaning.
A purely stats-driven thing of we are less likely to achieve a certain number of votes with her than without her.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I may have worded that like a fool,
I think
but
that definitely plays a part,
right?
I think that definitely plays a part. For some reason, Labour have never had a female leader, but when listening to some journalists, they were saying that after Sir Keir Starmer, the person with the most support within the party and outside the party is Angela Rayner, and that actually, even despite the fact she called Tory scum in the past, which she's apologised for.
She shouldn't have.
No, I mean, I completely agree. But apparently most Tory MPs really like her, and that she makes an effort to get along with Conservative MPs for very obvious reasons, because you need to be able to get along with the other side to get anything done. I think she's shown she's very capable. What I struggle with is I can't see the general public ever electing a female northerner that's working class to be Prime Minister.
No.
But she hasn't. I think it would end up going a bit Corbyn to a degree, in the sense of there'd be a huge amount of
left versus centre left.
Yeah.
In the party.
It would end up meaning that it would all get split like it did under Corbyn, and no one agrees on anything.
Possibly. Possibly.
Without the anti-Semitic stuff to go along with it.
Just the tax dodging.
But I think the thing is, also listening to the pollsters, the Keir Starmer thing has worked to a degree. Like, when they survey people, when they ask if they trust him, they're like, no, because he's just like every other politician. Look at Beergate. And even when they're told in the moment, well, actually, no, it's been proven since it was completely fine, which it was obvious to begin with. But it does work eventually, and I think all they have to do is just keep parroting the Angela Rayner thing, and there will be quite a large chunk of people.
The irony, isn't it, of newspapers who have editors, but more importantly owners, and it's being pushed by certain politicians whose families, you know, partners and parents and parent-in-laws and whatever, are largely in favour of loopholes that avoid paying your fair due of tax.
Yeah.
Slinging mud at someone for not paying 1,500 quid.
Yeah. But the thing is, that's lost on a lot of people. Like, that's not something that would be obvious. Like,
not a lot of people think about who owns the places that their media comes from.
No.
No one watches Sky News or ITV News or whatever Channel 4 News and thinks, I wonder who owns this. No one ever reads The Sun or The Mail or The Telegraph or The Times or any of them and think, who owns this? You know, because ultimately whoever owns this is pushing their agenda. They're going to hire editors that push their agenda, that what they want.
But that doesn't seem to ever enter people's heads, does it? At all.
Rarely enters into mine, to be honest with you.
No, but then
it's
I don't
there
read papers.
As a little background thing.
But I don't read papers.
No, but when you see headlines and stuff, when you walk past and you see...
No, but you not like, so you'll see it's the Mail, won't you go, oh, it's the Mail.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like that is a version of doing that, isn't it? Whether you're thinking about the owner, you definitely know there's an agenda in place when you see, like, if I see something in The Guardian, I might take it slightly more seriously and I might then read what they've said about it, or maybe even I've read a couple of independent articles online recently and things like that, but like anything the Mail has to say,
Well, you can still read an article, but you just take it with a pinch of salt. You know where it's coming from. You know what it's loaded with. And with certain newspapers, you know that they're a little more generous with facts than than other newspapers.
Yeah.
Some newspapers, no matter what agenda they're pushing, and they might omit certain things, but they won't. They'll really, really, really hold themselves to a standard not to lie that much. Whereas other newspapers are not that bothered if they print something that's quite clearly not true.
I think what I struggle with as well, though, is there's never anyone we can identify with in politics, and probably Angela Rayner is one of the rare examples where most people can. Even
I'll tell you who else I like,
and
it does tend to be northern-ish, northern to London, are women in the Labour Party, because I really like Jess Phillips as well.
Yeah, I like Jess Phillips as well. She comes across
again.
She's
She's almost exactly the same as Angela Rayner in the way she comes across to me, in someone that's honest, someone that accepts that politics, you have to, like you said earlier, you have to compromise a bit, but ultimately tries to stick to the core values that they hold.
Yeah. And the thing is, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, sometimes you can only achieve incremental change. Like, you can't always just clear the board and make sweeping changes, whether we'd like to or not. The reason I struggle with it, because like, she is someone you can identify with, but yet there will be people out there that will rather listen to what someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg has to say rather than what someone like Angela Rayner has to say, and I don't get it. Just because of the colour of their tie is, do you know what I mean?
Or the accent.
Yeah.
Because there's this huge, like...
I hear a northern accent, and if anything, it makes me trust the person more. Like, it probably endears them to me.
But there's a huge classist thing in this country that even though a lot of people in a lot of parts of the country will deny it, it's not as in your face. It is quite in your face in certain areas, but it's a really underlying thing that we do tend to think, like, there is this thing. I'm not saying you or I or any of our listeners think it necessarily, but as a whole, as a country, we do think that if someone's been to a certain school or been to a certain, and they've got a certain accent, you
assume competence, don't you?
You assume they got there on merit,
yeah, like an ability and potential. Like Boris Johnson only got to where he did in life because he went to the schools he did. Do you know what I mean? Like, Boris Johnson doesn't become prime minister if he goes to like Elliot Colburn,
State Con,
Carshalton Boys. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But
he gets beaten up a lot.
Yeah,
and probably. Rightfully so.
Yeah, but instead he got to pretty much sail through life and has
mayor, foreign secretary,
absolutely
prime minister,
laughing. It was interesting. I heard Ian Hislop being interviewed the other day, and he was asked about, do you feel any responsibility for like Boris Johnson's rise, considering he was on Have I Got News For You a lot? And Ian Hislop was like, well, no, because for starters, he wasn't a politician when he was on it, initially anyway. And like, people voted for him and I didn't. So the people who were responsible are the people who elected him. And I think that's something we don't face to as a society. It's not something we talk about. We don't talk, like, I don't know if we'll ever be able to discuss, until most of the people who voted for it are dead, the mistake we've made with Brexit. Do you know what I mean? Like, we now and we talked about this when we first started the pod. They are now calling to get rid of
the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of commentators on the right who were writing articles, 8 years ago, whenever it was, saying Brexit is good and we should all be, fuck the EU, they're riding our dicks too hard or whatever. And they're now writing articles that say maybe we should just rejoin the EU.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. I mean, it's good that you guys are coming around, but it's like, you're the ones that did the fucking damage and there's zero accountability.
Do you know, the ridiculous thing is, even though we'd go in on obviously worse terms than we were on,
we'd still be better off.
Yeah, far better off. Prices would actually go down. Like, that's the thing. All the things that were promised to leave the EU, rejoining would. And I'll tell you now, I
still bought it and ate it because ultimately I'm a pig, and we know that, right? I'll eat pretty much anything. But I genuinely, there was a couple of products I bought the other week. One of them was a meat product, and it said not suitable for the EU. And I was like, immediately I think that's because it's shit. I immediately think that the quality of it is not good enough.
Putting that stuff on then.
Nor did I until I spotted it on when I spotted it on one.
What product was it? Can you say?
It was a chicken product.
Okay.
And then I spotted it on another one a bit later on. That was like what was that, chocolate or something? No, I can't remember what the second one was, but I'd seen it twice, and it was like, not fit for EU or not suitable for EU or not for EU. I think it just said. Yeah, exactly. And we said, didn't we? The qualities are actually like, they're there for a reason. That whole free trade thing of like, well, if we're going to be taking off you seamlessly, we've all got to agree to make things to the same standards. Yeah. It's like, if we take those standards away, the standards are not going to go up. Okay, we're not going to be like, do you know what, guys? It's going to be like, we can make it cheaper and shittier.
Like, fuck the people. Like, I remember once seeing the ingredients list for just the really basic products at McDonald's between us in the EU and the USA. And like, just the fries, for example, ours was potato, salt, and theirs was like
a shit ton of additives,
pages of products, and you're like, what for? Why are you doing that? Like, that can't. How's that cheaper, Jake? Like, explain to me how I add in 2 pages of ingredients to your chips.
Because you get more. You get more chips per potato.
Are they cloning these fries, Jake? Is that what they're doing?
I don't know. I can't.
We need to get in the back doors of McDonald's.
I'm always saying that, not about McDonald's, but I'm always urging us to go through the back door. I'm always saying.
Excuse me, guys. You might have noticed from my voice that I've got man flu. I'm full of cold. I've got the COVID,
which is nice because you didn't tell me. I just turned up, and now I might
every
also
other
be
time
ill.
Every other time I've texted you when I'm unwell and be like, by the way, mate, I'm unwell. Just wanted to give you a heads up. You're like, yeah, it's fine.
Do you know what? While I'm here, shall I throw Alex onto the bus?
Go on.
Well, okay. Al, if you listen to this, you know I love you, bro. And this has been settled between me and Al. But let's throw this out there, okay? So we went to play golf recently.
Right.
And
where?
When we were at the Oaks, at the Oaks.
That's right. I must have been working that day.
Fit you were, though.
Was I, though?
Like, yeah.
Anyway, continue with your story.
So anyway, me and Al decided we were going to go play golf. He was like, do you want to go and play golf?
I'm already on Alex's side. I'm just pre-warning you.
And I was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, let's go. I was like, yeah, cool. Let's go and play golf. So we arranged a day. And then he messaged me the day before and was like, oh, by the way, this other person's coming. I hope that's okay. I was like, right. If you'd have said,
did you know
is it okay? Yeah, I sort of know them. I wouldn't say I know them that well. But they were like, he was like,
do I know this person?
I don't think so. Not unless you play poker.
No, I don't know them then.
But I was like, if you'd have said...
I do play poker, though.
If you'd have said, is it okay if this person comes? You know, I'd have been fine with it anyway.
Yeah.
But to say they're coming, what that says to me is, me and this person are now going to go and play golf. And if you want to come along, yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah, you do sort of feel like you become the third wheel.
And do you want to know what was worse about it?
What?
Al's messaged me the day before going, oh, this other guy might come along. This other guy's coming. No, another one turned up.
So you were the fourth wheel.
It was me and Al that had agreed to that had arranged to go and play golf, and we ended up going round as a foursome, and I had no say in it.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, I don't actually care about that. It was the way it was presented to me that I took umbrage with.
He could have, at the start of the process, said, "Mate, someone's shown an interest in joining us for golf. Do you mind if I tag along?"
Well, we pulled into the car park, and this other guy was there getting his shoes on or whatever, and he was... I was just like, oh, he turned up. Okay, yeah, there's another one that's coming as well. I sort of invited him as well, and I was like, mate... It's like, what is happening? I was like, how many people are actually
not enough company?
How many people are going to be on the tee? Clearly not.
No.
Clearly not.
He needed more men.
But it was literally as we were pulling into the car park, he's been like, oh yeah, there's this other guy.
Yeah, it's like, look, he's not necessarily done anything wrong, if you know what I mean. But like, there's certain...
I just like using the pod
social etiquettes.
Air my issues with no right of return.
But like,
no right of reply.
Knowing Alex as I do, he's a very sweet and gentle man. There's not a bad bone in his body. And he wouldn't have done it to annoy you, if that makes sense.
I don't think it was malicious.
He probably just didn't think. And then only realised afterwards that he didn't check with you first. Do you know what I mean?
But it was just like, bro, the way you word it, the way you word it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my piece.
You've got to make me feel like it's an option. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't make me feel like I've got the option now to join you.
Yeah.
Like our thing's been hijacked, and I'm graciously allowed to come along.
Yeah. How did you rank in the four of you?
Oh, the worst. I think probably comfortably the worst.
That's where the problem lies, isn't it? That didn't help, did it?
Do you know what really...
Were they really good?
Well, one of them, the one who was I knew was coming, he's retired and he plays quite a lot of golf.
Does that make you enjoy it less?
What, not being good?
No. No, but like, did that make it even worse?
No, because he's a nice guy. He doesn't really rub it in his face. And ultimately, actually, I played from like tee to green. I played probably better than I normally do.
Yeah.
But my putting was so shit.
Yeah.
I mean, my score the putting just let me down.
I've got a decent drive.
I've heard. And you're not bad at golf.
Don't get a chance to demonstrate though. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly,
I'll have to get myself down the driving range on my own.
You were working. Anyway, text Alex. He'll probably invite you.
I'll have to find a group of people to play poker with as well, it seems.
Yeah, there's. I tell you now, all the local groups.
I'm just trying to be annoying.
They're all made up of the same people.
Really?
Yeah, they just bounce from like pub to pub. So there'll be like one that does it on a Sunday, one that does it on a Monday, one that does it on a Tuesday,
just take turns.
and they just move around.
I like it.
So it's like the same.
Sounds
group
great.
Of people.
Sounds great.
Nice to have friends, isn't it?
Well, I guess, we've got just about enough time to talk about, I think, to move it on to more serious a subject.
Yes, it has cleared up.
Yeah? What did the doctor say?
Shouldn't come back as long as I start protecting myself.
Yeah. Well, look, we've talked about that. I know it feels better without one, but...
It's just very time consuming, you know? Who's got the time?
It always kept, like Henry VIII, just think about him, riddled with syphilis. You don't want to end up
with a lot of things.
You don't want to end up like Henry VIII.
No, I mean, what, 6 wives?
Yeah, and like
3 meals a day.
You couldn't get away with murdering them now. Do you know what I mean?
It is a little.
You're
more
not
difficult.
the king.
It is a little more difficult.
And you can't control tunnels in Paris.
I was going to say I can't send them on trips to Paris.
But I wanted to talk about, because we said we would talk about it not consistently, but like when we had the opportunity. But Israel-Palestine.
Israel-Palestine, sure.
Recently, I can't remember what day it was now, but
Start of April.
It was what, April 1st?
It was Monday. It was the Monday, wasn't it?
There was an attack on, and I say attack because I've heard information that Israel killed some AIDS workers, didn't they? They bombed some AIDS workers. They claimed accidentally, but the reports coming out, and not only was it not an accident, the convoy of aid trucks, I believe there was 3, were clearly marked with their logo, and it was known what they were going in for.
Yeah, just a bit of context. So whenever journalists or aid workers go into any war zone like that, particularly in somewhere like in an area like that, they do 2 things. 1, they mark their vehicles on the sides, on the roof, everything. It's really clear what they are.
Yeah.
And 2, they are in contact and communication, at least at the start and at least at the finish, with the
government in question
with the military powers,
so they know they're aware that they're in
where
the area.
They are, not just in the area, to say where they are. This is the route we are going to take,
and they know exactly
this is
where
the time
going.
We are going to take it. They say 9:21 or whatever, we're setting off and we're going to go down this road, we're going to go left along here, then we're going to go right along here, we're going to drop the food off, and then we're going to come back on the same route. Okay, they know all that.
Yeah,
and that context is really important.
It is really important
for this, because it means that the government, whether the IDF, whether they claim that it was an AI thing, whether they claim it was a drone thing, they would have known
exactly who it was,
where they were. They'd have seen the logo and gone, oh, that says World Kitchen or whatever it is, right? Oh, that says World Kitchen. They'd have checked the log and gone, yeah, according to our records, there should be a World Kitchen truck. Exactly where that World Kitchen truck is, fine, it all checks out then, right?
Yeah.
It should have ended there.
Yeah.
And the fact then that there was calls, because they were foreign, they were predominantly foreign aid workers.
Yeah.
So they were British, Canadian, Polish, and
I can't remember
there's an Australian.
Yeah.
And I think there was a Palestinian in there as well. So there was there was calls to say you need to launch an investigation. And I was listening to the radio when the news broke, and it was so funny. I mean, funny in that you've got to laugh or you'll cry.
Yeah.
I just rolled my eyes standing there in the middle of the street, because it was Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has released a statement saying that their intelligence, their observations, whatever, said that there was a suspected gunman, Hamas gunman, travelling in the convoy. And it's like, I am absolutely, and I tweeted it at the time, and I sort of touched one of you. I said, I am absolutely fed up. It's genuinely exhausting to listen to Israel claim that every single fucker they've killed is Hamas or suspected Hamas. Yeah. That includes children, very young children, like babies, toddlers, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. That includes the really elderly, the sick, women and pregnant women. Hospitals, hospital workers, medics, paramedics,
do you remember
and now aid workers.
Do you remember that mad moment where they shot a hospital with a missile?
They blew up,
and everyone tried to pretend like it wasn't them, despite the fact they'd already done it to others and have continued. And it's just never been talked about.
They've just recently destroyed the Al Shifa hospital.
Yeah,
it's like literally. I saw some really harrowing footage, and I do, as much as I avoid it, at least once in a while, I force myself to sit and watch it,
of the devastation.
Because I feel like it's really important for me to not turn a blind eye to what is going on here, because it is horrific. And it was footage of them pulling body parts out of the rubble of what this hospital used to be. It's not just like a building or a civilian building. This is a hospital.
Yeah.
It's despicable.
Vulnerable people are in there.
It's horrendous. And
all they do to justify it is they pull up an image of some men climbing into a hole, and they go, here's the tunnel that was being used by Hamas. That's why we had to do it.
And they're literally the thing, and there's a few things I'd like to take you back to what I said, or what we both said when we first addressed this, is all you're doing is inspiring the next generation of Hamas.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing. If someone came into my city, like, because let's be fair, it's barely big enough to constitute a country. The only quantifiable thing that we have is a city that would be, if someone came into the city and was just shooting everyone, blowing up hospitals, missiling the fuck out of everything, shooting women,
taking
kids.
Our homes.
If there was a child, remember the girl who was travelling with her grandparents, and they got shot in the car,
and she
phoned up, and she was 6 years old. Her sister's dead, her grandparents are dead, and she phoned up and said, "I need help. I'm being shot." And they said, and the IDF said yes. They cleared a paramedic to go in, and then they shot the paramedic and the girl. If that had happened in my area, they killed everyone I know, everyone I loved is either dead or at risk of dying needlessly.
That's not something you can forget.
All I'm going to do is want revenge on the people doing it. And at that point, I'm not going to, because I'm not going to think, because it's easy for us in the foreign community where we're watching it happen.
Yeah.
But it's if it's happening to you, and again, I said at the time, I understand when we were talking about the October 7th attacks, and I said, I don't condone it, but I understand it.
Yeah.
And I understand doing it. Because I would, if what has happened now happened to me, is happening to me, as far as I'm concerned, every single person on the other side of that border who is complicit in it is up for grabs, because they're
as responsible.
If they're not fighting it or denying it and saying, speaking out about it, then yeah, they're responsible. And I would go after every single fucking one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I would personally, but I can't. That kind of trauma has never come to me. I've never been put through that.
We know extremists come from, most of the time, desperation. And to be honest...
Extremism breeds extremists.
Yeah. And we know, since our involvement in the Middle East, the reason a lot of the Middle East hates us and America and the West in general is because we spent the last 20 years dropping bombs on them. Like, Afghanistan was a beautiful place once upon a time. We fucking levelled the place.
Afghanistan, to be fair, has a really odd history with the Soviets and then with us.
True. But pick a place in the Middle East.
I know.
We've dropped bombs on it. And I didn't know that Obama was known as two things: the bomber-in-chief and the deporter-in-chief when he was president, because he deported more people than any president ever has and dropped more bombs than any president ever has before or since. Like, it's not difficult if, as a human being, you imagine just for a second what it might be like to live somewhere. And, like, it wasn't that long ago it was happening here. And what did we think of the people dropping bombs on us? We didn't think a lot.
It's like, look, I know this is going to sound a bit silly for me to make this comparison, but go with me, okay? I'm trying to make it relatable. I'm trying to make it hit. It's like Iron Man. If the weapons that are killing your people every day say Stark on the side of it, and then Tony Stark turns up, you're not going to be friendly towards him, are you?
No, you're not.
And the fact is, not only are these people bombing them every day, but they've got
their resources.
They've got British bullets, British guns, British bombs, same as they have America.
I love the defence is that we only sell them a little bit of arms. Like, we don't sell them that much in the grand scheme of things. So, all right, well, that's absolutely fine. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the attitude change there's been in the media, particularly with public figures, not particularly with the government. Like, Rishi Sunak apparently has had a very stern talking with Netanyahu, where apparently he's used very strong language and said things like, this isn't acceptable and this can't be accepted, and like, we're very angry, we're very upset, and all that sort of thing.
He said to him, "You're not working class, are you? Because I can't have working class friends."
But outside of, and he's like, "You can't play by contactless because I don't know how that works." But outside of politics or the politicians, the general consensus in the media seems to be changing. What does that say about the majority? Maybe not the majority, but that part of society that work with the media.
This is gonna sound like me being really sweeping and
I know how I
and
feel
snowflakey,
about it.
But I'm gonna say something, and I know it's more nuanced than that. But as a
so
general
let me just
statement,
finish the question.
Sure.
What does it say about that part of society that it's taken 3 British people being killed for them to give a fuck about what's going on over there?
Racism.
Yeah.
It's sort of patriotism and nationalism, but it's racism. It's basically...
It's not valuing...
It's the same reason that we were quicker to jump to the Ukrainians' defence than we were to jump to that. And I know, again, that's different because we are quite clearly not in league with Russia, whereas we are in league with Israel. So jumping to Palestine's defence is also attacking our own interests, whereas defending Ukraine is not attacking our own interests in the same way. But we're not talking about governments, we're talking about public opinion. I would
actually argue it's more dangerous for us to be involved in the Ukraine conflict than the Israel one in terms of threat in the larger picture, because we wouldn't want to mess with Russia, whereas we don't need to be afraid of Israel.
But I'm pretty sure they're a nuclear power.
Oh, are they?
I'm pretty sure they're a nuclear power.
I didn't know the Israelis had nukes.
I mean, I've done some Googling today. When I say that, I've Googled 2 things, which for me is a lot.
Find out, have they got bombs?
Oh, no. Are Israel a nuclear power? Yeah.
Shit, I did not know that. All right, fair enough. I take that back. Continue.
Yes, they've never acknowledged it, but it's generally accepted that they have nuclear weapons.
I did not know that, but fair enough. Continue.
But yeah, I think it boils down to this. Look, when something happens to, and I'm not going to say it's because they're brown, but I think it probably is a little bit because they're brown. But I'm going to take that out of the equation for now.
It's qualified slightly. Not all people that have not condemned Israel up to this point, I would say, fall into that category. I would say a decent, maybe the majority, but perhaps not all of them.
But I'm going to take that out of the equation for now for the sake of things. I'm going to say that because it's, generally speaking, the Middle East is a predominantly Islamist area.
Yeah.
Or Israel is very Jewish. Palestine is a great mixture, but has got a large Muslim community.
Yeah.
Because it's a culture that we, generally speaking, don't understand here in Britain. It's not the norm to us.
It's certainly not one we're comfortable with.
Therefore, when something happens over there, it's like, I don't know them. It doesn't affect, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. And also, we don't see them as being particularly big players on the world stage. Because I'm thinking if something happened in like Japan, we'd probably give a bit of a shit because they're seen as such big influences on the world stage and such big producers of world technology and stuff.
We're sort of in the Friends with America club with them. Like, they're part of our group. Do you know, like, we're all swimming in the same circles.
Also, it's a really weird circle that America and Japan would be in league, given what America did to them and what Japan did to America.
I've listened to a lot of Americans that have travelled in Japan, and they're cool with us. Like, genuinely, they're like...
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of generations at least. Yeah. But I think it boils down to, when it happens to... Also, I don't think we see... There's a public perception. I don't think we see Middle Eastern people as being particularly... of value to society. We don't look at the Middle East and think, oh, there's loads of scientists coming out of there, there's loads of artists coming out of there, there's loads of... we just don't see it.
And there probably is loads of scientists,
yeah, absolutely, there's loads of capability in the Middle East, but we don't look at them as a group of people, whereas...
I think where the racism comes back in is I don't think or I say not we, but those sort of people...
Value isn't as much value is not placed on their lives.
No, 100%. They're not seen as like, and you can even see it from the government in the sense of, we immediately created a scheme to take Ukrainian refugees. We haven't done that for Palestinian refugees, and we're actively trying to stop predominantly like Muslim and people from the Middle East immigrants.
Well, look at how we treated Afghanistani immigrants. We said, there'll be a lovely for all the ones that worked with us and helped us defeat Al Qaeda. There'll be a perfectly good, safe passage for you to get to our country. And then they tried to get through it, and they were like, yeah, I don't know about that. We've sort of gone a bit cold on it. So I think that's what it comes down to. And I think for us, again, as part of that, we would look at them and go, well, we've just got to let them work their own shit out. Whereas now, it's like, no, do you know what? British people are getting caught up in this, and not just British people, but they were vets. I think the two Brits that got killed, like they were former serving members of the military.
They were there as security,
and I think that plays a part.
That definitely will play a part.
What do you think? I've gone on a big rant about it.
I think it's really sad, and I would find it difficult.
But why do you think it's changed? Why do you think perception is changing? Is it racism?
I think it's probably a mixture of them being British vets that were there trying to do a good thing, and the longer this goes on, the more impossible it becomes to defend Israel in any way whatsoever. I can't understand particularly what would have changed for someone with that event, though, because more than enough has happened. I can only think of either ignorance or racism. It's one of the two. Neither are great, but one's much worse.
Which do you think it's more likely to be?
Sadly, probably racism. Maybe not even particularly outwardly, but in a very baser, like not valuing the lives as highly as a white life or a British life. And maybe that's slightly unfair to a degree, because people would more likely value their own people than someone else. But it seems to be quite a consistent issue against anyone that's not white, basically.
But I would put...
We're all happy to put up Ukraine flags
when I talk
they
about...
get invaded.
And I'm only just thinking about it now because it's only just something I've thought of saying it on here. You don't talk about the Middle East being an area that we think, well, there's not much... Yeah, there's not many brilliant scientists and artists and writers coming from the Middle East. I think I put it in the same category as Africa. In terms of we look at it, because we look at almost other countries. You know, we look at North America, South America, Europe, obviously certain parts of that far Asia, and we think, oh yeah, there's some really brilliant stuff coming out of there, and they've got, you know, every student that comes through, every young person has the potential to really change the world. But as British people, and I don't mean individually, because I don't think a lot of our listeners aren't like that. I don't think. I think a lot of our friends aren't like that. I'd be amazed
if none of our if any of our listeners didn't.
As a general consensus, I think as a country we see those two areas, that Middle East and Africa, as being like
beneath us.
Yeah, not having the potential to have many world changing.
I wonder if Islam plays a massive part in that.
Probably.
I think there is still a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes, and I think it's probably a hangover of things like 9/11. The inherent racism that was just stoked by Muslim men committing an atrocious act. So I think that definitely plays a part. I don't really know how you change that, because if seeing that amount of people die isn't enough to change your mind already. And I can understand if you don't know enough about the situation, not having an opinion on it particularly, if it's not something you've engaged with at all, or if you're not someone who's on social media, because those people do exist.
I think this is why...
But like most people I know, and even like with Joe, I remember when October the 7th happened, I knew nothing about the Israel Gaza situation. I won't pretend I did. I then started researching and looking into it and the historical stuff, finding out that this wasn't just something that had been happening over the last couple of years. It's the last 20 years and longer.
70, 80 years, yeah.
And looking at the historical context, and I talked to my sister about it. She was like, so Israel are doing disgusting things and we should be on the Palestinian people. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not... If you know the whole story, it shouldn't be difficult to... But it seems to be quite difficult.
Well, the media are very good at controlling the narrative. That's part of what we're talking about now. Is why are they controlling it?
I don't understand what the benefit to.
But I think it's why it's a big reason why, like, America banned TikTok. Is a lot of arguments coming through that, there's all these arguments about it being spyware and it being whatever else and associated with the Chinese government. But there's also a lot of arguments that say actually young people were finding out about the stuff going on in Gaza and in Palestine through TikTok. And it meant that the state of the US state couldn't control the narrative. The people who owned all the big corporations couldn't control that narrative. They lost control.
The US is the most tied up financially and support-wise. And apparently even Israel has quite a sizable impact on USA politics and what they do domestically and abroad. So like for them, it's more complicated for America than it is for us. But I'm really disappointed in Keir Starmer. I'm disappointed in Rishi Sunak. There's no one showing any principle on this whatsoever. And I know ultimately it doesn't really make a bit of difference if Sir Keir Starmer comes out vocally against it in terms of the wider context of people being killed and stuff like that. It's not going to stop Netanyahu. If Rishi does a little bit, like if one of the leaders of one of the most powerful countries in the world phones you and says, we fucking condemn what you're doing and we're going to no longer support you in any way.
Throw an alternative viewpoint, just as something to think on, just a little something to chew on, is that we spent the last 8 years hearing about how we're going to take back sovereignty and surely taking back sovereignty is not being held to ransom by foreign powers because we are sovereign and we're independent.
Do you know what I can't wrap my head around though? Other than the historical context. So surely condemning
genocide is...
Like why we're not... how we're held to ransom. Like how have they got us by the nuts? I don't understand it. Do you know what I mean? Like apparently the amount of arms we sell to Israel per year is about 40 mil. So like in terms of like the wider context of the country's financial situation. I don't know what trade deals we've got with them or anything like that. That was probably a larger number, but I can't imagine it's to a level where we're genuinely frightened what happens if it's not like we're taking on America, do you know what I mean, who we're just so linked with in that way.
But surely taking back sovereignty, that's part of it, right?
Well, allegedly, but we've not seen that in other than them wanting to take away
human rights, workers' rights, and
which is all sadly stuff we predicted when we first started this podcast. That's the frightening thing. We're just slowly creeping towards all of it. And Netanyahu has apparently said that the date's been set for a ground offensive, which you can only imagine means literally just sending men in to slowly kill them all.
Yeah. And we'll have to hear how every fucker was suspected Hamas.
Well, this is one of the things I found out recently. Have you heard about their AI program? Is it Lavender?
Yeah. Yes.
That they're using it to basically track Hamas members and fighters and leadership.
But it's anyone over the age of 14 or something, right?
But through their phones and their social media and finding out basically where they live, and then when they go home at night, just targeting wherever it is they live and dropping a bomb on it, regardless of how many innocent people.
Well, I also read a report that said that part of this Lavender thing, where the drones go out and actually look at on the ground, take images and stuff, that any male, anything that's identified to be male and over the age of 13 or 14 is considered
a Hamas,
a target, and will be shot.
Yeah,
it's what? Sorry, what? And this is a country, I said before this all started, I think it was 50% of the country were under 14 years old, 50% of the population.
And also, I don't think since Israel's been a state, there's a war it's thought that it hasn't won. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've managed to win, even when they were against, I think, 3 nations.
Well, it's why I said to you that I think they've got a formidable force in the IDF. And part of that force is intelligence. It's why I think they knew that the 7th of October things were going to happen.
And I think at the time I said I found it very difficult to believe that the most powerful intelligence agency on the planet didn't know that this was coming. But sadly, it's not a positive update to the story.
It's not going to be. It's never going to be until more governments, world governments, change.
What do you think it actually takes to stop Israel doing what they're doing, to make them withdraw from
more foreign aid workers to be caught up in the mix? Because I listened to a Middle Eastern reporter and they were talking about how, unfortunately, the 30,000 odd Palestinian deaths means very little to the world, but a couple of British and a couple of British ex-forces, that makes a difference to the British press, and the same with the other countries.
I don't think the IDF are going to give a fuck though, and I don't think Netanyahu's going. I don't think they're going to adapt their behaviour in any way. I think they're going to continue bombing indiscriminately. They're going to kill as many Palestinians as possible, and they're not going to give a fuck what foreign national.
They're quite deep into it, but I do think that if all the governments of the world, or enough of the governments of the world, put enough pressure on, it won't stop it, because they'll always be in the back of their mind. They want to finish the job.
I think,
but it will halt it.
Sadly, I think the only thing that stops it is if
someone else engages,
and it would have to be a joint effort from most of the world's powers to be we've now loaded ships with men,
but again,
and we're going to be on your doorstep tomorrow.
Challenging a nuclear power is very different.
True. But they're not a confirmed nuclear power, so...
No, but
Yeah. No, but the thing is, I mean, look, I don't think we'll ever go... I don't think any government's going to be willing to go to that stage, not unless a large amount of people were killed from... how many more British people would need to die for us to be willing to potentially send troops over there? Are we talking hundreds?
Yeah.
Are we talking thousands? I don't know what that number is. And to be honest,
at least hundreds.
I'm not even saying it's necessarily the best solution to the situation, sending men into. But how far are we willing to let it go? Are we happy for all of them to die? Because that's sort of how it appears. Because if 30,000 is not enough, do we need to get closer to the million mark? Like what?
It'll be all of them, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah. No, sadly, there's not a positive end to that conversation.
Not going to be either, is there?
But we can only hope for the Palestinian sakes that something does change. The one thing I would say is I think, it's not something you'll say very often, but the SNP can hold their heads high on that. They've been, from the get-go, the one political party that, and Stephen Flynn, who I think does a very good job representing the SNP in Parliament, has championed it quite a lot, and I think they can hold themselves high over it. And does it? I mean, I know it affects how you feel about Sir Keir Starmer. Is it still going to be the deciding factor on what you do come the general election?
Yes.
Yeah.
In short, so the answer, the long answer is a bit more rounded and complicated, but in short, yeah, I cannot give my vote, no matter how much I want to get the Tories out and how much I want to, like I said, the Labour aren't going to be good or great, but they're going to be better than what we've got, and that's literally all we can aim for, is just let's go up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I cannot give my vote to someone who does not condemn and, vocally condemn genocide.
Do you think he feels the same way we do, like behind closed doors?
Maybe, but it doesn't matter to you.
No, I know.
I know you've got to play the game, whatever, but we're not talking about we're talking about genocide.
I think this is outside of the game.
Genocide.
So yeah. No, it's about straight up right and wrong.
Yeah.
We've not heard anything from people like Angela Rayner or anyone like that. Has that affected how you feel about them, or
a little bit less so than Keir Starmer?
Is silence less offensive?
I know there's a lot of, you really aren't allowed to say something outside of the party. But yeah, no, I think it less so, but still, yes, it still affects how I think about him. If you're not vocally condemning genocide, then you're supporting genocide. That's how I see it.
I think for me, he can't recover on it based off of when he was asked if
does it affect how you see them?
International, it does. I think whether I vote for them or not will depend on this area's like what the polling's saying closer to the time in terms of how likely are we to lose Elliot Colburn and get someone else. If that looks likely, then I'll be more willing to vote elsewhere. But it's difficult. After you mentioned not voting for them, it's definitely something I've thought about, and I'm more leaning towards going green or independent.
I just can't do it. I just cannot give my vote.
Yeah. But I think I'd need to know also how the independent lands on certain things in our local area. But no, I'm far more open to it now than I was.
Do you think with the collapse, I know this is not even close to what we were talking about, it's got nothing to do with Israel, Gaza, Israel, Palestine, but do you think we'll see any number or a higher number than ever before of independently elected MPs at the next election?
I think there's a good chance, yeah. I think it's become clearer since COVID, like people are more willing to consider independent candidates because
no one wants the Tories as a whole. People equally look at Labour and they don't want Labour.
We don't really know how that looks, do we? Like we've never had, or to my knowledge anyway, I could be completely wrong.
There's never been such a disparity.
No, and if we could get a good chunk, like even a third, maybe slightly less than a third of MPs being independent.
That's a lot. That's 200 odd MPs, independent MPs.
It's probably quite hopeful.
If you could just get like
maybe even 100,
5 or 10%, which would be
it'd be
30
to see
30
how
to 60, 35 to 70.
That impacts our political system, wouldn't it? But I think it would mean what I like about it is an independent candidate is more beholden to their constituency. Just instinctively, that it feels that way.
They're committed more to their constituents than they are to a party,
and they're more accountable to their constituency than a party politician because
they can't hide behind party politics.
Or the party, they've got the party funding to fall back on, whereas an independent. But that's the other thing. I'd like to know who my independent's funded by. Is it self-funded? And how they raised it? Who's donated? That'd be part of it as well. But no, it'd be interesting to see how many independent MPs we get.
If any.
Oh, we'll definitely get some. Like, you at the very least get Jeremy Corbyn. He's going to keep his seat. Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean, Owen Jones, as I think I talked about on the pod before, he's pushing for people to vote independent rather than Labour for very similar reasons to yourself. Well, practically identical in terms of it's completely over Israel and Gaza. Yeah, we've cheered everyone up, mate.
Yeah, happy days. And we're going to sort of leave you on that note as well, because we're going to go for a bit of a break.
Yeah, Jake's going
after
travelling,
this,
starting a new job.
So at least for a few weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around.
That's fair.
But
we're going to miss you.
We will be back.
We will. And
cheerier than ever.
Maybe there might be some cheery news. We'll try and do a positive one for the next one.
At the very least, I'll try and get someone pregnant so that we can at least celebrate that. That'd
be great. You do that.
You want a
just
little,
make
like,
sure it's consensual this
or
time.
do you want a little brother or sister?
You leave my mother alone. My sister talked to you afterwards that you need to leave that poor woman alone. But guys, let us know what you think as always. We want to know. But above anything, fucking like and subscribe. It's massive. I mean, what I would say is we've been...
And free Palestine.
And free Palestine.
End the genocide.
End the genocide. We've been doing very well recently, getting more subscribers, more views, all of that good stuff. But we want more. We need more. We love more.
We're greedy boys.
We're very greedy boys.
I've never hidden that about myself.
And like, it costs nothing to do it. Just like, subscribe. You know, if you don't want to watch the episode, that's fine. But just click on the YouTube link, hit the like button.
Costs your soul.
It doesn't cost them their soul.
It costs because you.
If anything, I think that's like
saves your soul.
Yeah, it's a good act. It's a kind act.
You'll be saved in the rapture.
It's a benevolent act.
I make this promise. All Crossing Swords subscribers will be saved when the rapture comes.
I believe that. I believe that.
Where can they get us?
When the Lord rises, you can find us all at Twitter at Swords Crossing. On Facebook at Crossing Swords. On Instagram and TikTok, it's CrossingSwords_podcast. And you can email us at crossingswords19@gmail.com. And if you're listening to this and you want to see how good looking we are, because I can understand it from our dulcet tones, you might want to see how attractive we are. You can do that by clicking on the description of the episode you're listening to, any episode, it doesn't matter which one, and you will find a link to our YouTube page. And if you like the episode...
We are not held liable to any messes that are caused, though, from your pure excitement.
No, look, that's completely on you. Just forewarning, trigger warning for orgasms.
Wear some thick pants.
Absolutely. You don't want people seeing what's been going down or up. And guys, we'll see you soon, and we'll miss you.
Bye.